Welcome. My name is Kelly Larson, and I am not a wellness advocate. I'm a preferred customer. And this just goes to show that in Doterra, this information that the advocates have is available to just about anybody. You go online, you can find all the information about something you ever wanted to find out about the essential oils. Now, going out to Doterra, they have these wonderful little tools that they give the advocates. They'll call them tear sheets. And I happen to have one that had about actually sports medicine, which is the item I'm going to talk about. Sports medicine, they say it reinvents it. So if you would like, everybody can have one. And I also went out to another essential oil site, which promotes Doterra, and they have their version of sports medicine. So you can have one of those. And we'll talk about those in a couple seconds. So before we get to talk about the essential oils, let's talk about what we do before we want to use an essential oil. I am no longer an athlete, but I have done football. I did 22 years in the Marines. I'm an avid runner, hiker. So I've had sports injuries. And now that I'm old, getting up in the morning is a sports injury. And the pains I had before are now permanent pains. So I'm very interested in sports medicine and the fact that I have a lot of things I need to fix. And I don't want to go to a doctor to do it. And they're just minor aches and pains, and realistically, the minor aches and pains, you should have a nice, easy way to cure them, or at least deal with them. So in the past, I'm going to show you a couple products that I used to live by. Absorbine Junior, good for whatever ails you. Horse liniment is what it really is. And then something like Icy Hot. Now these are the roll-ons. These are better than what we used to deal with. We used to take your fingers and just slap some on. Now, what is in these ingredients that made them so good, though? Realistically, not much more than what we see in essential oils. Most of these rely on menthol, and their menthol is, pretty common. A lot of the oils have the same properties as menthol. Another thing that they have is something called methyl salicylate. I probably pronounced that poorly, and that's called wintergreen oil. And wintergreen is an essential oil. And then another thing you might find with the Icy Hot is capsaicin, I think is how you say it, which comes from chili peppers. And I think realistically most people, if they get some product like this and it makes their leg feel hot or their arm feel hot, they think it's working anyway. So all you gotta do is throw some chili pepper on them. Oh, it's working. The other thing we used to do for oils is we'd throw ice on it. Or for injuries, we throw some ice on it or some heat, and we just keep oscillating between cold, hot to stimulate the healing. Or we get some wraps, we isolate and we immobilize. None of that does anything for the muscles. None of that does anything for the joint, nothing does anything for the ligament. You're not giving it anything. All you're doing is basically trying to fix something that's broken, but you're not helping it heal other than just maybe stimulating it or trying to keep off it. Now the thing about essential oils and what they give you, if you look at the little handouts I gave you, you'll see that a lot of little injuries have been identified. If you look at the Doterra one, the Doterra sports medicine one, on the front of it they talk about just basically the cell and how the oils interact with it, and they talk about some of the use of it. But if you go to the back page, and you'll notice that there's some symbols here where you'll see some color coding, and they have the first line of defense and the second line of defense kind of tools. They got whether it can be an aerosol or it can be something you have to actually put with contact on the skin, and it guides you pretty well. It's a nice little guidance for sports medicine. And some of the more common things we run into, you see the first ones there, athlete's foot and blisters and stuff like that from running and bad shoes. And it's nice to know that you can see some of the favorite tools like melaleuca and lavender. Lavender is probably the most widely used thing for sports industries. If it's not the first line of defense, it's usually like the second choice. So we see lavender is a very good oil for doing what ails you. Bruises, we see helichrysum, geranium, fennel, another couple popular oils to get the blood flow back in. Now we're not putting ice and heat on. Now we're giving the muscle something it can use. When you get into things like in the second column, you'll see some stuff about muscle aches and pains. Now these are really the ones that affect most of us if we're thinking of a sports industry. I've got a cramp. I've got a pulled ligament. I've sprained my ankle. And you'll notice that in here they talk about a lot of these things that will help you. For muscle aches, Deep Blue. Now Deep Blue is a nice little rub-on, or it's a lotion or it comes in the same little jar we usually see. We put a couple drops with whatever carrier oil you like. If you want to use something like the coconut oil that's fractionated, use the measuring cup God gave you. Go, put it in a little hand, a couple drops in your hand, maybe a little bit more of this in your hand, and slap it on wherever your pain is, and just rub it in. So it's a very simple process to apply an oil. Or Deep Blue even comes in these little nice handy little things. Now these are what you can give away to people, samplers. But they're also great for travel if you want to use something like Deep Blue. And Deep Blue is one of the more mentioned things. If you look on the tear sheet, it's mentioned for quite a few things. But I'm here to tell you that I'm not even that big of a fan of Deep Blue because they have a better product, Past Tense. This is for headaches, but Past Tense has a lot of stuff in it that Deep Blue doesn't have, that is on this tear sheet. And I just want to take you through kind of a comparison between these two. Deep Blue, if you want to know what's in the Deep Blue, it's blue chamomile, and chamomile is mentioned in a lot of your, like Blue Emu, and it's in your couple of these things that are identified there. Blue tansy, I think that's where it's getting its color probably. Camphor, helichrysum, which is something that's mentioned as a second line of defense for most of our muscle aches. Osmanthus, never heard of that one really. Peppermint and wintergreen. And those are, of course, mentioned quite often in some of those injuries where there be muscle cramps or aches or bruises or just trying to deal with nausea or something like that. Now, Past Tense, on the other hand, has a wintergreen, peppermint, and Roman chamomile. So it matches up pretty much to the blue, Deep Blue, but it also has lavender. Lavender is one of our power oils, and in the reign of doing all these different things, you'll find lavender mentioned numerous times as either the first choice or a secondary choice. And it's also got frankincense. We know frankincense is the #1 thing, and it's in this little thing. And also it's got cilantro, so if you want to spice up your food. It's got marjoram. Marjoram is mentioned for a couple different items on here. It's got Roman chamomile, basil, and rosemary. And those are all good for deep bruises and for ligaments and tendinitis and things like that. So this one's actually got more in it than Deep Blue is, but we usually look for it as being a headache remedy. But I tell you, I put this in the small of my back when my back's hurting, back quits hurting. Put the Deep Blue in, gets warm, and the pain doesn't really go away as fast. So I prefer this to this. And they're both Doterra products, and you gotta figure what works for you. Now if you look at some of the stuff on the little handout here, and just to pull out a couple of particular ones that we usually run into, like muscle spasms. Basil, marjoram, Deep Blue for a muscle spasm. I think everybody's had a muscle spasm, especially as you get older. You've been sitting in a chair for a while. Those things really start to hurt. Ligaments, as we get older, ligaments and sprained ankles and stuff could be nagging. And you'll see on the little thing here that for those, marjoram and lemongrass is an old favorite, and white fir is another nice little oil to be using. Now, the big one, the Deep Blue owns the market on is stiffness. So this is what we call one of those muscle wake-up kind of rub it in, kind of warm you up a little bit. And I think the Past Tense would probably work for that too. Muscle strains, lemongrass, Deep Blue, and even ginger. So I don't know if you can throw your ginger ale on your leg and make yourself feel better, but the ginger does work. So what are some of our power oils? If you look at the list there, you'll find out that lavender is probably your best power oil if you're going to take something for sports medicine. Lavender is good for blisters, bruises, cuts, infection, inflammation, muscle pain, sprains, ligament issues, sunburn, and tendinitis. That pretty much, if you only take one oil to the island, you might want to pack the lavender. Deep Blue, on the other hand, bruises, cramps, muscle pain, muscle spasms, stiffness, muscle strain, which you usually associate with like a rub type of thing. So you're going to rub into the muscle. Peppermint, cramps, diarrhea, nauseous, muscle cramps. So even peppermint. Those are your 3 most commonly used oils. And Past Tense basically has all the properties I just mentioned because it has all of those items in it. So it's quite a better power oil. Now if you look at the other little handout I gave you, you'll see that, and this is also using Doterra products, it doesn't necessarily match up to the other one. You'll find that everybody has a different experience with their oils. Something might work for one person, something might work for something else. Like elevation, it's supposed to bring you up, and it's something that's supposed to make you more concentrated. It's on the sports medicine list there. Puts me to sleep, might as well be a sleeping pill for me. And I think other people will find that one thing works for them and something else that everybody else swears by doesn't do a thing for them. Everybody's metabolism is different, everybody's body is different, and I think everybody's reaction to different oils would be different as well. And of course, this is bringing in breathe. If you're a runner and you're having problems breathing and you got like asthma or you got issues, bronchitis or something, breathe is a wonderful little thing to break up the congestion, open up your airways. We look at lemon. Lemon is an energy booster. And if you're used to be when I was a little kid, and the old 7-Up, which was all lemon lime, I'd find out if you were sick, my mom would give me 7-Up. It would go a long way to making me feel better, and maybe make me run around the house a little bit too. You see Melaleuca for infections and other issues, like athlete's foot needles, we get blisters, we get fungal infections around our nails, another thing. And then of course this one also has the marjoram, the peppermint, the lemongrass, and all the others. So we see there's a lot of little things that we can use. So when you go to the store, you can go get one of these. It's going to make your leg feel warm. It's going to have a couple little natural ingredients in it, and a lot of inert things that you can't even understand what they say. And if you knew what they say, you probably wouldn't want to use them. And where they come from, you have to go to Google to find out what does this mean and what does that mean. Or you could go with something natural. And a natural ingredient like, say, well, there's wintergreen. I can use this on sore muscle. Or I can just pick up something like basil. Then use this for tendonitis or something. And it just takes a couple little drops, and they're very cheap. You know, like, what is it, a few pennies per drop. And you can rub it into your skin and maybe help your muscles heal. Or your tendons, or whatever it might be. So, are there any questions on any of this stuff? If not, my name is Kelly Larson. I'll talk a little bit about sports medicine.